going to hear from Philip tonight. And Philip, this guy kind of gets around. He's the founder, of course, and the CEO of the Dot Glasses, but he's also done a lot of other things. He's held executive positions in T-Mobile, Accenture, and AT Kearney. He's a board member of another organization. He's been around quite a bit of time. I think it's going to be interesting to hear what he had to say. I went to his website, the Dot Glasses website, and looked through it. And to me, it's very, very interesting how they can make glasses to service so many, many different people around the world. I know I'm a wearer of glasses. I have glasses. Mine are trifocals, 3 different lenses on them, all blended. And I can remember years ago when I had just had a set of glasses with 1 set of lenses in it. And I'm interested in hearing how all this works, how he's helping other countries around the world, helping people see and working in areas that most people never go to. So instead of stealing his thunder, I'm going to let him tell us all about it. I'm going to get out of screen share and turn it over to Philip. Philip, the screen is yours.
All right, let me try to get my deck up. I think it's this one. Okay, do you all see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So thank you so much for the intro, Michael. And it's a pleasure to be able to speak to you all. As was mentioned, I led a long career in the corporate sector. I was also CEO of a $500 million payments company. I was in and out of the consulting sphere as well. Ended up being the country or the managing partner for Roland Berger Consulting as well for Czech Republic and Slovakia. But I've always been around innovation. Actually, it's been a common theme for the last 20 years in my career. I'm also a co-owner of a startup yard in the Czech Republic, the longest running startup accelerator in Central Europe. And I love also mentoring startup teams from around the region. It's what really gives me energy. I have a passion for that. And then, of course, I also try to give back. So I've had some civic duties. I'm a board member of Transparency International, which you're probably familiar with, as well as I did a short stint helping a political party get launched in my section of Prague. Also, I feel very passionate about giving back. So when I had the idea for glasses, which I'll go into in just a minute, I thought this could be revolutionary, and I needed to give it a shot. So after a long, successful career, I gave that up and launched Dot Glasses, and I've been working full time in that for 4 years. Concept started about 6 years ago, and we're making progress. So let me dive into the kind of the pitch presentation, which I give to investors and conferences. And then, of course, we'll leave plenty of time at the end for some Q&A to clear up additional points. So let me just see now if I can switch. There we go. So over 1 billion people in the world see something like this. Even though there's been a solution in the world for over 700 years to deal with exactly this issue. It's the #1 health issue in the world today. Well, it was until COVID hit. But it's actually only been recognized recently as such. The World Health Organization only launched its first report on vision about 18 months ago. And now, just 1 month ago, the United Nations General Assembly passed a resolution called Vision for Everyone by 2030. So this has raised the profile of poor vision completely to a different level than ever seen before. And it's important because it's without glasses, people can't learn. And also without glasses, people certainly can't earn. There are also, of course, safety concerns if you can't see. And generally, the quality of life is much, much worse. My personal experience, I had -6.5 diopters growing up. So, definitely on the scale towards blindness. When I was at the beach without my glasses on, I literally couldn't find my family anymore. So I know what it's like to suffer from poor vision. And I know how the magic of glasses can change your life from 1 second to the next. Why hasn't this problem been solved? Well, it seems like such a basic thing to provide glasses, but to solve it for the people who can't afford them or don't have access to them, it's very difficult. There's 5 key elements that we need to align. That is distribution complexity. How do you reach those remote villages and arrange logistics? Usually it's multi-visits, right? It's not just one visit, and you need a specialist there. Training is difficult because how do you train somebody to become a vision, to become an optometrist? That takes a lot of study. And even some of the other vision specialists require months and months of training before they can actually properly measure vision, and then of course deliver the right corrective lens as well to a customer. Then there's the end-to-end cost. Now, it's easy to talk about unit cost, the price of glasses, but that's not sufficient in this case, because we also need to include the cost of the distribution. We need to include the stock level. When we're talking about serving these remote and poor people, every single cent costs. So you need to make sure you optimize everything to keep the cost extremely low, to keep the price low. Style is important though. This was a bit of a surprise to me at first when I started talking about the glasses concept. So many people said, hey, they still need to look good. And that's actually true. It turns out to be true. Even the poorest people still want to look good. And they certainly don't want to look like a science experiment, which some of the other solutions on the market made them look like. You could maybe give them the glasses for free, but then they wouldn't even wear them. So style is important. And then they have to be robust. We're talking about the most challenging locations in the world where it's either extremely hot or dusty or cold, etc., or all of the above at some points of the year. Those glasses need to last more than a couple of months because there will not be a replacement. And it's an important problem to solve because $250 billion are lost each and every year due to lost productivity from not seeing well. Now, the good news is, of course, if you add glasses to that mix, worker productivity can increase by 30%. This is actually done by, this was a study done in a tea plantation in Assam, in India, where they really gave out glasses to the workers and they saw what the impact was. So worker productivity up by 30%, monthly income levels up by 20%. And then in a separate study, they realized that one single dollar invested into glasses has a positive $25 economic impact. So aside from productivity gains, I mentioned a little bit of this, but there are also some other gains which are important. Just by distributing glasses, we can increase the students' education. So not only is it proven that test scores will rise overall, especially for those people that suffer. I mean, their test scores will seriously rise. And it's actually a similar effect as 4 to 6 months of additional schooling. And also, there's all of these other attempts to improve the lives of students around the world. So in Western China, they tested what is the impact of giving glasses as compared to other programs like deworming or nutrition support. Those are also important, but glasses had a much, much larger impact, 3 to 10 times higher. Road safety is also extremely important. In New Delhi, in India, where I go quite often, 60% of the traffic accidents are attributed to impaired vision. That's absolutely insane. And it's 25% of drivers couldn't even see 25 to 30 meters away. So, this is something that affects everybody because everyone is on the streets. And so it's not just the drivers, which we're worried about, is actually the pedestrians and other drivers. And then, of course, quality of life overall is horrible when you can't see. You can't read, of course, you can't even read your mobile phone. So you can't send messages to your loved ones. Workers drop out of the workforce because they can no longer see and they can no longer earn a living. And also just for household chores, it becomes impossible when you can't see well. So dark glasses is the only solution that's sustainable and scalable. So many others have tried. Some of them are still trying, to be honest, but none of them have been able to crack the solution because it is so complicated. But you see, dark glasses actually addresses each and every one of those 5 key points, and we are transforming the industry. Why didn't anyone ever come up with this? Well, the problem is there's a very traditional way of thinking about providing better vision. We took it completely differently. As a former consultant, I love the 80-20 principle or the Pareto principle. And that is trying to get 80% of the benefit with 20% of the effort. But I also put on my startup hat and looked at how startups are looking at defining minimum viable products or MVPs. So I combined those 2 elements and came up with good enough vision. That's to get people to within 0.75 diopters of their perfect vision. So we are not striving for perfection because we know that perfection is actually extremely costly. We also went for good enough style. So the glasses, unfortunately, I left mine at work. So and the only ones I have here are reading glasses. I couldn't look at you without getting dizzy in that case. But the style is it looks like normal glasses. That you can hardly distinguish them from being fashionable glasses. But these glasses cost $2 wholesale, So includes the frames, the lenses, and also the vision test. The frames are the world's first adjustable one-size-fits-all frames. And I worked on that for 2 years before finding success. Actually, finally, when I was complaining bitterly to my client, who was, when I was a consultant, he was the managing director of a design subsidiary of Mercedes-Benz. So he said, hey, let my guys give it a try. So I think about 9 months later, we had the functional prototype, and we developed it from there. And the lenses themselves are also interesting because they're agnostic, left and right, which means I can use the same lens for the left side or the right side, which has an immediate impact on stock levels, about 50% decrease. So what we came up with is this range of innovations. And those innovations provide the world's cheapest vision correction. On the left, you see, of course, the frames and the lenses. The frames are made up of 6 core components. And they were actually the Red Dot design winner for 2020. And ultra cheap, they can be assembled, including the lenses, in about 45 seconds. They're made out of ABS plastic, by the way, which is same plastic as Lego is made out of. My kids tell me it's indestructible, so I tend to believe them. Then we have the simple vision testing kit. And that actually, there's 2 of those, the item in the middle. We have one for reading and one for distance seeing or short-sightedness. And there's also a built-in pupil distance tool, which allows us to understand how big that nose bridge will need to be. And we provide those in these simple vision kits, which is essential to jumpstart the distribution. Let me talk a bit more about distribution, because distribution is actually the key. So all those innovations I just talked about, super important, but to get into the market and distribute is actually one of the most challenging things to do. How to reach bottom of the pyramid populations, we need to solve the distribution element. So what we did is we created those kits. On the top, you see what we call it the entrepreneur bag. And that's something that we can use for door-to-door distribution. And it has everything you need: 20 frames, 60 lenses, a cutting tool, and 2 vision testers, and some charts. Everything in a 2.2 kilo bag, which is extremely affordable. And it's basically an optical shop in a bag. We train somebody to use that in a couple of hours, 2 hours at most, and they then are able to go out into the field and start selling glasses. Then we also have, for fixed locations, let's say a pharmacy, and some of the pharmacies in the markets we're talking about are tiny, holes in the wall, completely packed with goods. So they don't have space for equipment. But they can take one of our small bags and stick it under their counter, and then measure vision as customers come in and earn some extra income that way. And we have the vision camp kits. Those are bigger bags. It's about the size of a small carry-on. You can wear it like a backpack or a crossbody. And what's great about this is it's only 8.3 kilos, had 120 frames, 360 lenses, and it's fully modular. So you can literally set up a vision camp where you can test 250 people. You can set that camp up in about 10 minutes just by taking out those modules and putting them on tables. So traditionally, to correct somebody's vision, it required a number of customer visits. They needed to first have a first check to see if they are potentially needing glasses. Then they would go to an optometrist who would use an expensive tool, which usually costs about $1,500 to do some refractive error testing. And then it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to deliver your glasses, because they needed to send those results to a lab. The lab fits the lenses as well, sends the frames back. Then you go in for adjustment to make sure that those glasses fit you properly. So extremely complex logistics. And you needed an optometrist or a very senior vision care specialist, and of course that expensive equipment. So it's very complex. Stock Glasses turned it all on its head. One customer visit. We measure vision and deliver your final pair of glasses within 2 to 3 minutes. And the testing, as I mentioned, for that kit, it's super easy. In under 2 hours, we can train anybody to become, or almost anybody, to become a vision entrepreneur and start earning some incremental income, perhaps, if they want to do that as a livelihood creation possibility, but also very importantly, fixing the vision of individuals, which helps the individual, families, and communities in those areas that they are serving. Here's a quick video just about the assembly process. Now, this one takes a little bit less than the 45 seconds, but not a lot less. As you can see, it's very easy. These things snap together, and once they're together, they're extremely robust, and that's the final product then. So we used 2 different models, actually. One, in some cases, so for instance, we were in South Africa, and the South African government said, okay, let's do a big program in the education sector. in the schools, but we have our optometrists. So because we have optometrists with great equipment, then please provide us with a broader range of lenses. So we can do that, no problem. We give the frames, we give a broader range of lenses. And that's good for governments or existing eye care networks, just to reduce their costs and actually enable them to deliver immediately, instantly. And then there's a radical approach, which unfortunately is necessary in most of the world, because there are extremely few optometrists in the world compared to the populations. And those optometrists are almost always in the larger cities. So you cannot find one in remote areas for the most part. So our solution gets, as I said, people to within 0.75 diopters of their perfect vision, but actually the average is about 0.375. And that's about the difference I have from morning to evening as I get tired. It's nothing. We don't need an optometrist. And that means it's ideally suited for micro entrepreneurs, commercial networks, and charities or NGOs. And we, of course, have a restricted lens selection then. You know, you saw that from the vision testers. There are very few lenses, but we realized that good enough vision allows us to serve actually 90 to 95% of the population to get them to within this good enough level with only 5 power lenses, and actually we add a 0 lens, so it's 6 lenses altogether. It's actually a mind-boggling difference from the normally, because you normally require about 50 lenses or even 100 lenses to serve a population. We require 6. So who do we work with? We actually don't want to build our own networks because we want to address this problem as quickly as possible. It's 1 billion people in the world that need glasses and can't afford them or have no access. How do we scale up that we can actually address those people, not in the next 2 generations, but maybe within the next 10 years? What we do is, because it's so simple to use our kits, we can actually piggyback on existing networks. So that means in the private sector, for instance, we can work with pharmacies, and we do. We have some great pharmacies, let's say in Bangladesh and in Nigeria. We also work with private healthcare clinics. And of course, any networks of social micro entrepreneurs are also extremely, extremely interesting for us, because then we can actually create new livelihoods or make their current job more sustainable by having additional income for them. Nonprofits are also a very good fit. So healthcare NGOs or community engagement NGOs are fantastic, or healthcare can be, it doesn't have to be NGOs, of course, it can also be government run. Faith-based organizations are good. They have often networks in the field. So we can, again, piggyback on any network. And then governments, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, they're gatekeepers to the school systems, for instance, or health chains as well. And in Nepal, for instance, we're also using a very efficient cooperation with municipalities that want to serve their populations. And we actually serve only bottom of the pyramid populations with what we do. We simply don't go to those places where there's competition, and that means actually we're targeting places that have never probably had glasses before or seen them or can't afford them. So a little bit more than 1/3 of our glasses then are sold to the rural poor, which have an access barrier. Whereas students, for instance, it might be more of an affordability barrier, as are the urban poor. So we do, and actually now we're doing some big projects in refugees camps as well. In Kenya, we actually won a grant from the World Bank and IFC to serve the largest refugee community in the world. And that's an initiative that is kicking off basically as we speak. So currently we're in about 14 countries around the world. We've sold 50,000 glasses in the first half of this year. Now, it's not a bad number, but we were hoping to be at 350,000. COVID, of course, shut down many of our markets, and we had a hard time getting in there. And even when you're in there, budgets were postponed or shifted to fight COVID, which is fully understandable, of course. Luckily, we had some investments from earlier last year. We raised some money, so we were able to overcome this hurdle of smaller sales, lower sales, because our model is a very low margin model. We don't make much at all. We need volume to actually be sustainable, and I'm confident we'll get there. But it's still something that we need to now get up to that 350,000 in the next 12 to 18 months. We have amazing stories from around the world, and I won't talk about all of them. On the left, though, Samuel was our very, very first client. he was in Angola, where we brought some of our 3D printed glasses down. Now they're not 3D printed. We just the first prototypes were, and even though they were clunky, we basically, he credits us with finding him a new job. He had just lost his job the week before. The week later, we saw him on the streets, and he practically kissed us because he had gotten a new job because he could see again. And on the far right, in Ethiopia, that's my colleague with the big beard, Václav, and it's a really funny story. So he's sitting in a taxi, talking to the driver, and the driver's like, I can't study English anymore because my reading glasses are so scratched, and it's really a shame. So during a traffic light, literally during a traffic light, my colleague measured his vision. By the next traffic light, the guy had new glasses, and my colleague had a free taxi ride. So we also want to make sure that we are having satisfied customers, right? A lot of agencies or companies, organizations serving the bottom of the pyramid, they go, they deliver, and they leave, and they actually don't get that important feedback. Are you helping? Are you doing something that is used? So when we do these surveys, the answers are amazing. So as you can see, those big yellow lines are the improved or improved a lot on the left-hand side. In terms of overall, has the quality of your life improved as a result of wearing glasses, dot glasses? So almost everyone is very, very happy with that. And then, we were always concerned, is the look good enough? And as you see, the visual appearance of dot glasses is certainly good enough for the vast majority of people as well. And they're so good that even Miss Nepal is wearing them, and she's a big supporter. So this is some of our other pictures in action. This is India, Bangladesh, Kenya, and it's always amazing to get in those markets and see the, when someone sees for the first time, it gives me goosebumps talking about it. It's just incredible. So, in the bottom right picture, it was in a small village called Jamanamukh in Assam in India. And when we got there was about 250 people lined up. And this was in our early days. I was almost terrified. But we tested them all, and we sold about 100 glasses, and I think it was about $3 per pair of glasses. And just, the unbelievable joy people seeing for the first time was just incredible. Our team is it's a snapshot. This is our global team. It's growing. It's very diverse, and it's actually an excellent team as well. I have to say, I'm very, very proud of the people we've been able to attract. And we're also very proud that we directly influence 6 SDGs, the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, for the bottom of the pyramid. And those are, of course, quality education, reduced inequalities, good health and well-being, decent work and economic growth, and gender equality. Interestingly, 60% of our customers are women and girls, which is a bit surprising. And we also then, of course, were acknowledged by the community because we won the first place in an SDG Awards, and that was for the business category. And I just wanted to mention one more thing, and that is Rotary cooperation. It's very important for us. It's something that we are focusing on and growing slowly. In Nepal, we're working on a project with a local club. And the title of that proposal, which is now being prepared, is Develop Sustainability for Healthcare Volunteer Networks. Now, the local club identified three needs through community assessments, three needs in 3 community assessments, actually. No vision testing or eye checkups are available in most remote areas of Nepal. Absolutely none. 90% of the population has never had their eyes checked in those target municipalities. And they, in a very, very small pilot, they realized that 66% of people had poor vision of those tested. So really a phenomenal number. Usually it's about 35%. So in Nepal, it was much higher than expected. So they prepared some project goals: increase productivity, ability to learn, and quality of life. That's those things that you get by helping people see better. And they decided to target, of course, the farming communities in, I think it's 3 municipalities. And of course, they also wanted to provide incremental revenues or incremental livelihoods to those community healthcare volunteers to ensure that that first network of healthcare volunteers is also sustainable, because if you require subsidies all the time, it's not sustainable. So the planned outcomes, I think, are ambitious, but fantastic. They want to train up to 100 female community healthcare volunteers, and will provide vision kits to all of them. Then they want to screen tens of thousands in the farming communities, and the idea is probably to deliver about 15 to 20,000 glasses. And the great thing is there's going to be an ongoing impact. with those volunteers in the market with kits, there should be about 50,000 glasses delivered each and every year, covering new communities. So there's really a snowball effect here. And generally, cooperation with Rotary projects is great for all involved, because the impact is sustainable. We always leave a network of trained vision entrepreneurs. We continued to get an ROI on those kits, which were the capex of the project. And jobs are, of course, created in that process. Livelihoods are created. And then the benefits of improved vision, which we've talked about now in this presentation a few times, are phenomenal for individuals, families, and communities. That'll boost the economic performance of communities, of individuals, and really have this huge follow-on effect. And we would, of course, love to get more Rotary clubs engaged. So on the first level, we are looking for some support for that Nepal project. They're looking to raise 30,000 from different clubs. They have about 10,000 allocated so far. And once they hit that 30,000, I understand that then they can qualify for a global grant. And the project budget is around $50,000 at the moment. The other way, of course, is to think to see how we could help one of your own projects or create a project to provide better vision. And that would be in our current map, Bangladesh, Ethiopia, Ghana, India, Kenya, Nepal, Nigeria, Peru, South Africa, Uganda. But we don't have to be there, to be honest. If you have a country, which could even be a challenging country, and you have some network there that can be tapped, we can also work with you and develop programs in other geographies. And just so you get a feel for it, the typical project budget is around anywhere from $7,500 to $100,000, and that's even flexible, really depending on the scope of activities that are being considered. So that's it in a nutshell. I'm sure I covered a lot and I talked fast, so hopefully you get a grasp of what we're doing and how we're doing it. And I'm certainly happy to take any questions.
First of all, Philip, thank you for the whirlwind tour. I've got several things that I'm going to send you an email about that I got some questions, but not for here. But I do have a question here. The lens you're talking about, is that a plastic lens or a glass lens?
So that is a polycarbonate lens with a hard coat, so it's scratch-resistant coating. They're provided by Essilor, actually the #1 producer of lenses in the world. So they are a partner. They're very high-quality lenses.
Okay, very good. Thank you. That was one of my questions, and I thought it was very ingenious of going to Mercedes and getting them to figure out how to help you with the shaping of the sides of the.
The whole frames actually. I mean, it wasn't free, but they gave me a really good rate, a very friendly rate. So and of course, amazing engineers were working on it. So it was really remarkable to be able to get them they're engaged.
And I think that's just tremendous that we're able to get people to use their expertise to help people around the world who otherwise would have no way of being able to get to them. So thank you very much. Okay, we've got about 8 people on board. Any questions we have from anybody? Raise your hand. We'll ask a question. Randall, go ahead.
My first question, Philip, is about the Nepali club. We actually, our last public project in St. Petersburg had the participation of a club in Nepal that donated money for a Rotary bench that we placed here. So we have a connection with Nepal, and it'd be nice if we could do something back for Nepal. And I wonder if you could introduce us to that club.
Absolutely.
It would be very easy for us to start a dialogue.
Would you be the main contact point initially?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, fantastic. I'll do that.
Okay. Any other question?
I have another question. Can I ask my second
Go right
question?
ahead.
So how have you identified what countries are the most needy and have the biggest gap to be filled? How did you do that?
Well, it's actually relatively simple. So we look at, of course, the poverty levels in a country, and then we look at what the how many optometrists there are, et cetera. But there's some general rules in poor populations that don't have access to glasses or can't afford them. Roughly 35% of people need glasses. So then it's just a population equation. You look at the poorer countries in the world, and you can just extrapolate. Actually, the biggest country in the world is China. Surprisingly, the rural areas are horribly underserved, and then India, And then we're looking at the other, Nigeria, Indonesia, etc. And so we're only in 14 countries. We hopefully will be in 30 countries in the next 5 years, because there's just so many countries in the world that actually need us. And actually, strangely enough, we open up a branch in, well, it's not a branch, it's kind of a partner in the US as well. So we had a dynamic lady who said, look, there's at least 30 million homeless people in the US, and people can't afford any health insurance. And so even access in the US to glasses is horrible. So it's not our target focus, to be honest, but there's pockets of people around the world, even in the wealthier countries, that just have never had a chance to get glasses and see properly.
Very good. Okay. Another question. Anyone?
Tom Ross
No.
has a hand up, and so does KK.
Who did?
Yeah.
KK and
Yes.
Tom.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Philip, it's a very amazing product which you have shown it, and I think the cost-wise also it's quite reasonable for the poor countries like India and other countries. I belong to India, and where we have a lot of poverty, people can't afford to have glasses, but this is definitely going to be a solution for them because it's very cheap. I mean, cheap or economical rather. So, and also quality-wise, I think it had gone to various tests, and it's proven very good, world-class. Probably, if I can be a connect for India, I'd be interested to take up, and I would like to know how it can be worked out.
Fabulous, fabulous. By the way, your glasses look actually very, very similar to ours.
Yes.
So not such. I bet you the price tag is different though.
For sure.
No, we would love to. We would love to reach out. And actually, one of my colleagues, head of business development, he's actually going to be moving to India because it's a big opportunity. It's a very challenging market. So we need all the help we can get there, and we'll be very happy to reach out. Thank you for that.
I have given my contact email and my contact number in the chat box.
Yeah.
You can.
Perfect.
You can
I saw
also
that.
please provide me your contacts.
Very good. We'll do that.
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure.
Anybody else have a question?
Tom has his hand up.
Yes, go ahead.
Philip, could
Tom.
you put your email in the chat? And my second question is, astigmatism affects about 1/3 of population. How do you handle that?
So astigmatism is of course an additional problem. So, however, for low powers of astigmatism, when it's not such a big issue, which is the vast majority of those 1/3, you can compensate with lenses to a certain extent. And for the rest, if it's a bad astigmatism, we can't help. But what we can do is two things. First of all, we're not capable with our model of serving 100% of the population. That's kind of by definition the 80-20 approach. So we want to do the best job we can for the largest amount of people. But what we do is we're creating awareness. We go to the markets, we do a free vision test, and we identify somebody who can't see properly. And they may not know that actually, but we say, no, you cannot see properly. We've tested you can't see properly. We try your glasses, the glasses don't help. So then we refer them to a clinic, to a specialist, and we say, look, it's worth your time to go to a clinic because you can't see and there's probably a solution. They wouldn't have gone before because oftentimes they need to get on a bus and go 8 hours over the mountains at a huge cost, and then they have to stay there for a day to get tested. They have to pay the vision test, then they have to stay until the glasses are ready, or maybe they have to go back. It's a tremendous undertaking, but because we've told them there's a solution and they can see better, they are more willing to go and do that. So we can't address everybody's needs instantly, but we are helping the ecosystem to get those people treated who maybe have very strong astigmatism or some other eye disease actually.
Thank you.
Very, very good. Yes, Randall, go ahead.
Another thought I have, you mentioned in a slide Rotary, which of course is nice because we're Rotarians. Our big competitor in the world is the Lions Club, Lions International, and their signature project is related to cataracts, I believe. So they have vision is a huge, huge thing for them. Have you had any luck with Lions International or the clubs?
We've had a few conversations, but oftentimes just like with the large vision organizations, I am talking to the CEOs of most of them, and they're all interested, but they do what they do and they're happy with what they're doing, and they don't really want to change their processes, or they don't want to extend their reach because they're successful as they are, and one can't argue with that. Same with Lions Club. They have some cataract hospitals. They're providing a lot of good, and of course there's an argument saying, look, well, a very strong argument. Once you have cataract surgery, there's a very, very high chance that you're actually going to need glasses because it targets the older people. But in many cases, no glasses are provided. So it's something we haven't spent a lot of effort getting into the Lions network. Of course, there are synergies, and it's something we would hope to pursue a bit further in the future. I think we were talking to them in Malawi and in Ghana so far, and things will get there. But there's obviously some lower hanging fruit to those organizations that don't consider themselves specialists, that we're not kind of, let's say, suggesting that they change their business model.
I think, Philip, that there's a lot. 1 second, Anthony, and I'll be with you in just a moment, Anthony. Philip, I think there's a lot of folks also. This is not always the Rotarians that we have, because we have experienced Rotarians, but a lot of the new Rotarians and most people around the world have never been to a rural village in India or in Kenya. I've been to both. And until they can see that the cow that they're milking, that provides them something they sell and use, lives in the same house and hut as the people, sharing it with them. And their plot of land is no more than your room, and that's their total ownership of a plot. Anything else belongs to somebody else, and they have to service it. So where you're reaching, it is absolutely needed. I mean, I have seen many, many people there who walk around and they bump into things, not so often because they know where they are. They're not blind, but they know where these things are, so they don't bump into them as often, but they still cannot see. So I think it's a great thing getting into the rural areas. That's where we need the population to be improved. Antonina, your question.
I think I missed numbers because of computer connection, internet connection. So what is price range for individual to get your glasses?
Well, so the end user price, so we don't determine the end user price because we work through partners, but we have kind of a mission ceiling price, which was initially at $5, but in places like Ghana, that's actually too low because we need to make sure that everybody in the value chain makes enough money that they're incentivized to actually provide the service. However, most countries are able to sell. So in India, Bangladesh, the end user price is between $3.50 and $5. And then in some countries, it might be a little bit more than that. But that's really our sweet spot, is getting them there at an extremely cheap price. It depends on how many middlemen there are as well. If we can do a deal directly with a government, for instance, it could be much cheaper than that. We have a wholesale price, to be very transparent, of $2, but it's amazing how difficult it is to get it into some countries. Bangladesh was charging 40% VAT on those, or import duties on glasses, which is crazy. It's really preventing glasses from getting to the right people. So then we work with our local partner, get them in as cheaply as possible, make sure that he has enough margin to be sustainable, and still focus on a low price, because all of us need to have volume, except for the end seller. All of us need to have volume to make this interesting, and you have volume by having a low price. Michael, I think you're on mute still.
I wasn't, but I got on mute by accident. Thank you. I also copied, as well as Randall, have your address. So if anybody else wants it in the future, just contact us and we'll be happy to provide it for them. Natalia Lichat, any questions for Philip at all?
Thank you very much for the presentation. You've opened my eyes literally on the issue and the amount of losses that are being sustained by this problem and the benefits that are actually achieved through this program. I just you blew my mind. I never looked at this in this way. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
And Andres, any questions for our guests?
Nothing to add to Natalia's comments because they are hitting the point right on the
Right.
top. Thank you,
Right.
Natalia, and thank you, Philip.
Right. I think that you have opened our eyes literally to see the problem a little bit differently. This is one problem, and there are a few problems that are just global, and no one is working on them, or almost no one is working on them. And here you have tackled one of them, and that's a feather in your cap. We really appreciate that. Thank you. Randall, go ahead.
I just wanted to address one of the points that Philip said about the necessity of making sure the glasses were attractive, so that they were stylish. And when I was in the Navy a few years ago, we had a program. There was an option within our medical benefits that we could get a free set of glasses, and they were really, really ugly. So we had 8 really nasty frames that we could choose from, but I was cheap ass, and so I wanted one of these. And the lenses were super thick, so they were really ugly. And my personal anecdote was we started training and we were sailing from Esquimalt, which is up near Victoria in British Columbia. We were sailing down to, I think, San Diego, where typically our ships would spend some time in fit out. And young Sub-Lieutenant Eastman happened to forget his glasses back home. So young Sub-Lieutenant Eastman came onto the bridge, and my job was navigation. So it was a bit of a problem that the captain was screaming at me. What? I won't say the words that he was using because they were really bad words, and we can't say them on this recorded broadcast. But he threw me off the bridge and called me an idiot because I didn't have my glasses. So they didn't have a nice dot glasses kit sitting in a little drawer down with the medic, and so they had to helicopter from Victoria a pair of glasses to me so I could continue my training and then become a accoladed naval officer. So having a solution that could be delivered cheap and easy would make sense actually on board the ships.
Right. I was also thinking about the military's part of it. I did 26 years in the Air Force, and the first pair of glasses I got had a nickname, as all Air Force glasses had when you first get a nickname. They're called birth control glasses, because with them, nobody's going to want to date you. No girls will want to date you when you wear them. They're so ugly, really, really ugly. We call them birth control glasses. So
fantastic.
But the military might be another source. And the fact that being in war, which I was, I can picture being in war, and if my glasses got broke or damaged or whatever, if I had a small little bag with an extra set of this plastic glass already in it, I could put it together within seconds or a minute or whatever. I mean, if I can assemble a rifle blindfolded, I certainly can put glasses together.
Very true. And actually, when they're unassembled, they're also virtually indestructible because they lie flat, they pack flat. You can step on them, wouldn't do anything to them. So that's actually an interesting idea. Yeah, and they're super lightweight as well.
Right. So in these countries where you're going, maybe their military is another market for you. That something that, because if you got somebody out there who's shooting or doing something and they have to see and have glasses, those glasses can get broken and damaged. And if they had a spare pair, doesn't have to be their main pair, but they got a pair in their backpack.
Just have to be very careful what side I take in a conflict. We don't want the bad guys to shoot better.
That's going to happen. We know. I mean, that's not. There's no way to avoid it. That's going to happen sooner or later. Okay. Yeah. I don't think. Randall, last question.
One more. Philip, do you know anything about the Russian need? Is there a need in Russia that's identified, or you think you could posit a certain percentage?
We looked at Eastern European countries or former Soviet countries, and they're, generally with a small startup, we have to go where the need is greatest. And in those countries, there used to be a medical service which was fairly good, right, and was fairly accessible. So there are a lot of people who somehow have access to either an optometrist or glasses at a reasonable price. But it's certainly not true across the entire populations. Russia I know has tremendous problems in certain regions of, there's extreme poverty. So like in the US, we found a niche as well. I'm sure there's an opportunity in Russia. It's not someplace we'd like to set up a presence per se. On the other hand, we can easily train anybody or any organization to start distributing glasses. So, you know, we would be happy to have an opportunity to send some kits, send somebody to train, you know, if the opportunity is large enough, and help people in rural areas of Russia as well, or poor areas.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions before we let Philip go? None? Okay. Philip, again, thank you very, very much. As Natalia said, you opened up our eyes. Round of applause for you. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
And it's interesting that Rotarians and Rotary have so many projects already going on. Now we have just heard of another one that we could work on that may be economical based on our budget, may be doable, but it's certainly something that's already set up and being done. So a lot of good information. Also, I don't know if it's proprietary or not, but your presentation had a lot of very good data as far as convincing someone to donate, if you will, to a fund or to Rotary to make a contribution towards this glasses project. So if that is shareable, we would like to share, I'd like to have it.
I can certainly share it.
I understand that, so.
Sure,
Okay.
I'll send that to Randall.
Yeah, if you send that to Randall, that'd be super, and then Randall can pass it to me. But I think it's a selling point for when we talk to other Rotarian clubs and other people to try to encourage them. So thank you for your service.
Great.
Thank you for the fact that you're going after the poor people and the folks that just cannot afford it. So I think that's quite noteworthy. So, okay.
All right. Thank you very much. Pleasure to meet all of you.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? That's a Rotary four-way test.
Now many years ago, in 1932, his company was headed down, he knew not what to do. Then Herbert Taylor started on a quest to keep his team from certain doom. He wrote the four-way test.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? That's the Rotary four-way test. Adopted some years later by Rotarians worldwide, some simple rules for dealing with the people by your side. A guide for life's decisions, no doubt one of the best. Just 24 quite simple words. The four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? That's the Rotary four-way test. In the class or on the playground with your friends at school, you'll find that hurtful words and actions really aren't too cool. So as you make your choices of what to do or say, remember that old four-way test and you will be okay. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? That's the Rotary four-way test. And will it be beneficial to